Phone literally just turned off. So, pardon the interruption in the thing that Dana was just saying that I was like fully immersed in. I'm gonna wait for her to sign on. That's so annoying. My blood pressure is through the roof. I hope everybody joins back in because she was having an amazing conversation. Thanks, phone. I'm just gonna go ahead and wait for her to join. You know, these technological hiccups, they do happen. As much as I wish, especially in the middle of such a good story, they didn't. So we had a nice audience. I see you guys popping back in. Thank you so much. I'm waiting for Dana. She was like in the middle of her sentence. I hope we can get her to come back. I'm gonna go ahead and message her. Dana, get back on. I am going to wait for Dana. I'm gonna tell her hop on. All right, she's coming on. Do you know anything about the Chechen deportation? There's Dana. So let me go ahead and add her. Again, I apologize. I'm so sorry. My phone literally bricked. It was like, I can't handle this. Boom.
Oh, sorry.
I know, and I have full battery and like excellent Wi-Fi. My phone literally just bricked. So if that happens again, guys, we'll just do it again. We'll just hop back on again. I'm sorry. This tends to happen in these lives. It's not perfect, but you were in the middle of a sentence about the Sochi house and the indigenous people of the Caucasus. Please go ahead and continue.
So, so that's what we found out. They're going to put this huge pavilion together where they're going to showcase the next Winter Olympics that they're going to be the host of. Okay, they're going to do that. The second thing that they were going to bring all the way from where they is a ship. It's called a cruise. Now, when you do some research, the Cruisenstern and ships like the Cruisenstern were the same ships that were firing upon Circassians banked out on the Black Sea.
Wow.
So they already fled from their homes.
Wow.
Firing cannons upon those same people.
Oh my God.
And the Russian Olympic Committee had commissioned for that to come all the way to Vancouver Harbor to say, look at this.
Yeah.
Look what we got.
The money that colonizers and genocidal maniacs will spend to celebrate the way that they just injure humanity is incredible. The way that the artistic ways that they'll spend their money to do that. Yeah.
So now when you hear this, it's like, oh, we gotta go. We gotta go and like right some wrongs here. This is not the way to be. And so it was a journey to get there. There was a snowstorm, snowmageddon. It was a mission to get there, but we got there. And it was truly like the Russians had no idea that there was going to be a delegation of Circassians coming. It was all hush hush, very secret, and that shocked them because we got right in front of Sochi House.
Wow, remember that. It's incredible.
It was incredible, and we held signs. I particularly held a sign. Probably you know of this picture of it's in Russian, I believe. I think it was in Russian, of the same sign, the same exact wording of how a man by the name of Eskerby Milinov, he was in his 70s, older gentleman. When he held that sign before I had done it in Vancouver, the authorities had questioned him, saying, "Why are you holding this sign?" Basically, it says, "What have you done to my beautiful, noble people?" That was the sign that he was holding. "What have you done to my beautiful, noble people?" They took this man in his 70s, mind you, and they broke his arm. They beat him up. Like, how could you do this to the older gentleman? Like, it doesn't matter, like, whatever sign he was holding. Like, have some decency,
Right.
you know? That's what it is. There's no decency, no sense of any kind of humanity. And they were going to celebrate this. And so we had gone to Vancouver and we showed the world. We held our signs. We partnered with the First Nations because, as you say, they know exactly what oppression had done, what kind of this oppression has done to their nation. They understand. It was a kindred spirit. Right away they understood. Right away they understood that something has to be done. And then the day before we had planned this protest by Sochi House, there was a procession, a parade that was all people who were protesting the Vancouver Olympics, and we were invited to be a part of it. And before that had happened, there was a convergence of about 3,000, 4,000 people all people who had some kind of issue with the Vancouver Olympics, whether it's about the poverty that it caused to so many people, the homelessness that it caused, the environmental issues, you name it.
Right.
And so all these people are gathered and we were invited to speak. And then when we were explaining why we were there and how the next Olympics were happening on our people, our land, and these are the issues, right away they said, shame on Russia. And can you imagine this crowd of 3,000, 4,000 people chanting, shame on Russia?
Wow.
It was goosebumps. Like we're standing there on the steps of this convergence with these signs and just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
This was the kind of like support, the kind of understanding that these like-minded people had. And so that was quite powerful. And so with all these activities, obviously we got them online. And even before we had posted our photos, there was photos that leaked onto Reddit, onto social media. I think VKontakte as well, the Russian Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And those inside the Caucasus it turns out that those inside the Caucasus had been wondering if there was going to be any Adigas that would go to Vancouver to protest at Sochi House. When they saw our photos in our fascias with our signs, they couldn't believe that it was happening. And it made them, I think, this is only hearsay, I could only imagine how proud they must have felt. They themselves wanted to do something too, but because of where they're living, they are to do it. And so it is up to us in diaspora. It is up to us who are living inside the Caucasus, inside of occupied, to bring these issues up. Right. That is our obligation as those living in diaspora. And so that was the thinking that we had for the next couple of years. Any chance that we had to stick a needle and just put a pinpoint, be like, nope, that's not true. This is what actually happened. Whether it was on social media, whether it was like picking up a phone call and doing like calling the embassy or calling something like that and recording and letting them know, like, no, this is not really true. I'm trying to go back to Sochi. Can you tell me how? And it's like these kinds of things. But all of these are, it's nothing that we invented too. Right. They're all methods of nonviolent action. These are all methods of activism. These are all methods that are available to anybody, basically. And that's what we followed. Like these are how other groups had done it. Other nations, other peoples, when they have injustice, this is exactly what they were doing. And so that's exactly what we did. And our activism around Sochi, around genocide recognition, planning processions and rallies around May 21, all of Circassian activism is only on the backs of what had happened during the Cold War, because there were groups or Adigas in the United States, in Europe, wherever, if you weren't under the sphere of the Iron Curtain, who were advocating for freedom in the North Caucasus. There was groups that called justice or freedom for North Caucasus or free the North Caucasus. And there were Adigas here in the United States standing in front of the United Nations saying, please free the Caucasus, please free the area that we are from. And that's why I want to say, like, nothing we did is new. It's something that has been building for a while, and we just added to it. It isn't something that we had thought of, like something nobody had told us to do it. This was a sense of our duty. It was a sense of obligation. We knew the truth. We were learning the truth as we were doing it too. And so that was our mission. Just bring the word out there. Let them know that Adigas had lived in Sochi. Let them know that this was the capital of our nation. And that really resonated with people, especially Adigas. A lot of them were like, didn't understand that this was the true history behind our people. It was a turning point of understanding, like, okay, like this, for better or worse, Sochi happened. And I think Sochi happened because Russia thought that we wouldn't say something against them.
Right.
It was really poor calculation on their point, by the way.
Right.
Because the buzz that we were generating, and not just us in the United States, but even those in Europe, even those in Turkey, all around the world, anybody who could hold a sign was holding a sign.
Right.
I know people in Japan who were doing it. I know people in Australia who were doing it, all over the world.
Right. Well, your involvement, sorry to cut you off, your involvement in this, I learned from you at that time. Like, I always thought the Olympics was just like the one thing that the whole world could agree on was just awesome and great. And like, how could you mess that up? It's the Olympics, like I knew the history of it, Greeks and this and that. And from that time when you guys were in Vancouver and just learning so much about, through you and your like the group, your guys' experience, now, every Olympics has protesters. It's like I'm aware of it. Maybe that was true before too, but now I'm just aware of it. Like the last ones that were held in China. I mean, people were not going, like athletes, like best athletes were like, I'm not participating in this because of your human rights issues and the corruption. So it's just, for me, it was like an awakening in that area. And then I wanted to add to what you were saying about how nothing you did was new. So my own personal anecdote, when I attended my first protest, my parents, specifically my father, was very worried about me because coming from a Middle Eastern background, you going to a protest was extremely dangerous. And I went anyways, and it made him very upset. But I tried my best to explain, that this is how it is here. Like in America, we protest. Like that's something that we're allowed to do, But I think that generations who have been in the Middle East or Turkey or the Caucasus or almost anywhere else. I mean, I know Europe does some protest. Now everybody's protesting, but in some parts of the world, it is just more dangerous to stand with a sign than it is a real act of bravery. As we're seeing with the Ukraine, right? You don't know what happens to those people as you're watching them get dragged away by the cops and shoved in a van. You don't, and you'll never know. Like, how are you ever going to follow up on that person? So, it is a uniquely American experience. Granted, there are violent protests and people who don't do anything wrong, and then they end up in jail anyways. You can't discredit that. But for the most part, protesting here is a form of political expression that can be utilized, like you said, in non-violent ways to get the message out, if anything, to build traction. And I'm so proud of you guys for utilizing all of that.
Thank you. But that's exactly what it was. It built traction through social media. It was the age of like Twitter was popping off, like Instagram was just new. Facebook was a great organizing tool. And all this traction, all this buzz was attracting huge, major media at New York Times, CNN, Al Jazeera, The Economist, National Geographic did a full, like, I remember us having a conversation years ago about this. Like, imagine having the map of Circassia within the yellow borders of a National Geographic magazine. Like, it's incredible. It's incredible. But that only could have happened had there been buzz that had been mounting. Buzz, like, not just from our group, but like everybody who was opposing the Sochi Olympics. And there was a lot of people who were opposing it. The Sochi Olympics had brought Adigas from all over together. We stopped thinking as communities, as like the Circassian community in New Jersey, Circassian community in California, Circassian community in Jordan, Turkey, whatever, thought of ourselves as a nation. And I think, if anything else, I think that was the most important thing that had happened, because we were all united in thinking that this is something that we have to say something about. And if nothing else, that is really powerful.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, what do they say? You can get rid of the man, or you can get rid of the idea, but you can never get rid of you can't get rid of the idea, basically. So you can cover people up, you can throw journalists in jail, you can whatever, but once an idea sparks, that's where the true, flame for a concept comes from.
And quite honestly, I think the buzz that created had been a real reawakening for a lot of ideas. And I think we're still feeling it. We're still feeling that reawakening, because before the protests, before all of that, we weren't calling May 21 as we were calling it as a day of mourning.
Right.
Not Circassian Genocide Memorial Day. That word genocide, being applied to May 21, is big, because before that it was just like, okay, we're just gonna sit here, we're gonna remember our people, we're gonna wipe away our tears, all good, it's all fine. But we also have to think of May 21 as a way of action, as I had said earlier, the other part of this. And I think having these new designators, it's like the word genocide is something that we're using more often. Great. The word Circassia that we're using more often. Wonderful. And because, as I said, growing up, we didn't have these words.
Right. Yeah.
That had happened to us, describing our homeland. We didn't have these terms. And I think this is all helping in reframing what had happened to us, and reframing how we're going to think about it in the future.
Wow. Beautiful. So obviously you have an inner talent for talking about these topics. It just happens so organically and natural for you to land in that position with your group. You guys all kind of became instinct, and it happened. So what can people do, in your thoughts, how can people contribute to Circassia and to their, identity and their own awakening? Like, how do you have any insight as far as that goes?
So, yeah, I about that, and I thank you for bringing it up, actually, because I truly believe every single person, whoever believes in Circassia, has something that they could offer to spread awareness of our people. Either do something. If you're great with art, produce art that depicts whatever your heart imagines, whatever comes into your mind. Put it out there. Somebody will resonate to it. If you love history, like I know a lot of people who are really into political science and And that's something that was an interest of mine too. Like, and if you're thinking about going into politics or becoming a lawyer, think about how you're going to become a lawyer for Circassian rights. Like, how are you going to, for example, the question of repatriation, like going back to our homeland? That's something that could be brought to European courts and be like, okay, these are the steps that are being denied us. Well, let's figure out a way to bring this case forward. And so we could have the chance to go back to our homeland.
Right.
And so I think that's what we have to, whoever's watching, whoever wants to know how to bring something forward, think about what you could offer. And it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. To make Circassia as what it could be, you know. And but before that, or in conjunction perhaps, we have to create these spaces too. We have to create these institutions where people are comfortable to express themselves, to say without fear of saying, oh, don't say that, like, you shouldn't be saying this, shouldn't be talking about this, you really don't know what's going on, you know, like, that's not what they want you to think. It's like, no, like, learn about it, you know, like, read from scholars who have done the research on it too. Find those articles and read the books, read the archives, just get every single piece of morsel of information that you can and absorb it and produce something that will benefit our nation.
Right.
And I truly believe every single person has a capability to do that. Even if you can, even if it's not like outwardly expressionist, talk with one another. Think about, like, okay, how are we going to do this better? How are we going to, let's plan an event where we're talking about nation building. You know, like, how can we imagine what's like, instead of talking about, I don't know, like, what's your favorite haliva?
So funny. It did the
wheel,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
gotta love it.
a quick call coming. I had to decline it really quickly, but
There's the call again.
okay, I'm so sorry about that. Hold on for a
Don't
second.
girl, my phone bricked. Don't even sweat it. This is how it's totally cool. It's totally cool.
No, I just wanted to say that everybody has a way to bring something forward, you know, and I think it's important that we recognize it. We have the spaces to get this going, and I wanted to say, instead of probably talking about what's our favorite haliva, having discussion between potato or cheese, how about we discuss, like, what kind of government are we going to establish in Circassia? Will it be a parliamentary? Will it be like a democratic system? Like let's think of these kinds of things too. Like, let's imagine what our country will look like. For example, how cool would it be to whip out a passport saying Circassia on it?
I know.
Like, I would love it if some, like, graphic designer could come out there and say, oh, this is how I imagined, like, the passport of Circassia to look like, or about, like, a driver's license in the city, in
wow.
Like, how cool would that be? You know?
What a fun project. Project.
And it's just, it gets you thinking, like, okay, maybe this is possible, you know? And we have to realize that there's political trends that maybe we don't fully understand, but for the amount of time that we were out of our country, out of Circassia, there has always been a hope, a wish to go back, a wish to have Circassia. And I truly believe that there will be, maybe not in our lifetime, I hope in our lifetime, it'll be great to have a country called Circassia. I mean, there's people like officials and analysts who think, people much more brainier than I am, who are saying that Russia will fall. And I don't want us to be caught in a position, be like, just sitting on our hands and be like, oh, we had a chance. We had a chance to have our country and we weren't ready for it. And the only way we're going to be ready for it is if we have these conversations, if we instill in young people today, go to college, get an education, become a lawyer, become a political analyst. But instead of focusing on other issues, focus on Circassia, focus on what's happening in the North Caucasus. And I think only then will we really be ready for, if something happens, then we could build a nation for ourselves. And that is, I think, be the only way we'd be able to hold on to our culture. It'll be the only way that we are able to teach Adigabza. This is the, like, your page is all about culture and it's beautiful, but I also feel like we have to find institutions to safeguard it. And it is my true belief that a country called Circassia will be the home for all of that, will be the safeguard, will be the protector of all of it. That is why we are so adamant in trying to hold on to our Khabza. And that is why people are so fearful of losing what we're losing, because we have already lost a nation. We have always, this is something that I think will really help if we start thinking like this, if we start thinking that this is super important, that we try shifting our thinking that Circassia is important. We have to strive how we're going to get it back, what tools can we give ourselves, what should we be seeking to, what knowledge should we be seeking to bring that together. I mean, from what I understand, from how I see trends happening, they're being created every single day. You know, it isn't like a foreign concept that what had happened in the past stays in the past. It could come back. We have to be ready for it.
Right.
We have to have a concerted effort to bring these things together, and we can only hope, wish, and have an understanding that it will happen, but we have to be ready for it. We have to drive. We have to do the work. We have to. We have to sweat for it. We have to do it.
When I was in Turkey and I saw firsthand that, you know, Circassians are everywhere, all over the country, it was extremely hopeful for me, because being in America, you know, whether or not you even know the term, there is something called American exceptionalism, where we tend to believe here that we are at the forefront. We do everything great. Everything, you know, comes from America first, and basically the rest of the world gets like whatever from us. And to some extent, that's true, especially in media, and movies and music and things like that. But there is an entire world out there, and connecting with people and building communities, which is what the foundation of this page is about. And it took me until my 30s to truly understand what the word community means and appreciate it and want it. And that's where this whole, what I'm trying to say is going to, is that effort could come from the States. You may be sitting there watching thinking, I love what Dan is saying, but, you know, how is this gonna happen? Like, I'm one person. I agree with Dana, but dude, you have the internet, you have all types of platforms. If you get in front of the camera and you talk, people will find you and they will connect with you. My last guest,
go to DC, go to Congress, knock on doors, be like, hey, this is happening.
right?
It's relevant. The Caucasus is right next to Ukraine, so it's super relevant what's happening in our part of the world. Be like, hey, this happened to my people so many years ago. It's still the effects that we're still feeling it today, and it's still a continual genocide. I want to bring this to your attention. It's like, go online, create a video, talk about it, bring it to the masses. Knock on doors if that's something you want to do. Talk directly to policymakers. Write letters. Go on social media. Create the buzz. Create art that talks about, expresses these issues. there's just a multitude of things that could be done. And I say go for it. You know, if you need help, whoever's watching this, contact me on social media. You can find me anywhere. Willing to help and work with anybody who wants to push this forward. I think it's super important, and I'm willing to guide and help any young person who wants to do this. Or it doesn't even have to be young. Any person who wants to get on the phone and explain these issues to somebody, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, let's get the ball rolling.
Right. And this, and I'm going to say this because all of us pretty much carry it, and it is a result of trauma. This idea that working with your people is just going to end up in a big headache or argument. Okay. We have to overcome that. We have to overcome that, because nothing is going to push us further away from our identity than just us not interacting with each other in things that matter. This includes supporting businesses. This includes supporting each other's art. This includes supporting each other's personal endeavors in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you don't have to love somebody 100% to agree on something and work towards a goal. And that's okay.
I
That's
agree.
okay.
And it's also, I know, like, I think are quite, tend to be quite isolated and try to work our group, and that's fine. That's something that should be, that's good. But we also have to be willing to seek out partners who align with our goals. And that's great too, because they could offer a different perspective. They could offer some knowledge that we're probably missing. And it's super important to align ourselves with those groups. For example, the First Nation. For example, other indigenous groups around the world. For example, environmental groups who could tell us about the lasting effects of what happened to Sochi, how it's going to affect the landscape over there, because it's our land. We have a responsibility to it too. And just aligning ourselves with these groups is something that should be encouraged as well. We should be seeking out the knowledge from others, because that's something that they're working on. They're dedicating their energies to it. We should reap some of the knowledge that they could offer us as well. It's super important to work with each other, but it's also important to seek out those alliances as well.
Right. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's what I'm hearing. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If somebody's doing something and it's working, it's okay to ask for help. We have a problem with that too.
We do. We do.
You're like, I can do it. I can do it. And it's like, dude, they're already doing it. It's okay. You know, like, hop on board. It's okay. Yeah. I love everything that you're saying. I love that. That's one of the premises of this page. The general premise of this page is just an inclusion. You know, look at how these people have handled this and this and this and this. And it sounds so much like our story. It should be comforting. You know, it should feel like, you know, you have brothers and sisters in this world that understand your pain and can help you, baby. You know, they call it alchemize it, you know, turn that pain into something so powerful and a force where you can move forward with your life with that. I love everything that you said, Dana. That's so, just got me right in my heart. Beautiful.
I wanted to ask you a question, Noor, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You have 2 young boys,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Beautiful children, mashallah. They're beautiful. And I was curious, like, there's something that, because I'm also involved in the casa and I deal with people a lot. And perhaps this is a question that I could probably ask scholars who are versed in this. But I wanted to ask you, as a mother, who's somebody who's interested in culture and exploring high identity and everything, I wanted to ask you, how are you framing May 21 for your boys? Or how do you plan to do it? Maybe if you think they're a little young now, how do you plan to approach that with your boys?
So Idris is going to be 6 next month. So he is a little young, but he's not young enough to understand concepts. And I'm dealing with culture and especially the darker parts of culture, the same way I kind of deal with religion,
Mm-hmm.
which is I'm trying to instill in them a love and respect for the concept. And then once I feel like he's able to understand because he's matured, his brain can handle what I'm saying. My Idris, he's an emotional child. He feels deeply. So I don't want to burden him with something scary that he might not be able to carry in his body and his mind at such a young age.
Yeah.
So yesterday, for example, I ordered a flag. He saw it. We ironed it together. We got to Target. We got a flagpole. We put it on the flagpole. We took it to a park that has a bunch of trees. It feels like a forest. Texas is flat. There really aren't any mountains.
The photos that you like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I basically recreated that. I let him walk around with it. I let him wave it. Today he woke up and he told me, Mama, happy Circassian Day. And I said, Mama, you make it happy. Thank you so much, Habibi. And, that's kind of how I deal with religion too. I want him to love the different concepts before he has a heavy kind of serious thing that might override that peace and love that it should bring him, in order for him to carry it in a healthy way. So he knows that today is a special day. He knows that the flag has something to do with today. He knows that it's a big deal to mom. And he does know that our ancestors were expelled from our land, because we talk about First People in America, on the American continent. We talk about what happened to them. We were homeschooling this last year, and it came up a lot. When we were in Turkey, it came up. But to tell him what happened, to explain to him about the Black Sea and the boats and the villages, I mean, all that stuff, as an adult, I can barely handle it. So, as he gets older, I'm going to try to introduce it as his maturity develops. But, that's kind of how I'm navigating that with my child.
I think that you shared that because there's a lot of young parents on here, and I'm sure they're wondering, like, how am I going to introduce these topics to my children,
right,
or to young people, any young person who might be interested in, like, how are you going to but it's exactly how you explained it, like teaching them about the flag, giving them that pride of being Adiga, giving them that there was a place called Circassia and we came from there. I think it's super important. I quite insightful how you shared that. I think it's
Thank you. I just that because when I think back, I mean, there were so many holes as a young child. Like, I would go to the Jum'iyah and there was the Sunday school, and but when I went to school, I felt a little out of place, even though my skin tone, I blended in. Like, my name is weird. At home, we speak different languages, and you feel insecure for a while until you just kind of like own it. So I'm just trying to do with him something that and this is interesting, that I see other cultural people do with their children. I'm not inventing the wheel. I'm not reinventing the wheel.
The wheel is great. Let's just adopt it and tweak it here and there to fit our purposes.
Exactly. I'm heavy into like the parenting space and on Instagram. Heavy. I have a whole account before this one where it's just all parenting, and I'm just seeing people from all around the world talk about how they do it. Books, cultural clothing. That's the thing that we miss, I think, in this country.
Write a book about Circassian identity. Go for it. Children's book. Go for it, please.
I know. A secret project to anybody who's watching this. I'm planning on doing that. I'm actually working on that. But the way that I see it is that there's space for everybody. So if anybody who can draw and write, please get on your tablet, get in your notebooks and create content for children, because that's something that we're truly missing, is a space for Circassian kids to be Circassian and play as Circassian children. You know, my kids don't have tradition, they don't have anything tangible to hold and touch besides that flag. It's a grown up, it's a grown up world for them. You know what I mean? I had the idea of making a like a Melissa and Doug style costume, you know, something cute. Kids, you know, you could easily button it up. If you have connections, call me, because I want to talk in regards to that, you know.
Super important, especially
Yeah.
because if they at least have love who they are, love who they don't feel the confusion that we felt
Right.
growing up. I think it's super important. I think they're already like have such an advantage. They want to pursue like a career in the Circassian space of creating a nation or whatever. They already have a leg up because of the foundation that they have already like parents like you have established. I think it's super, super important.
Thank you. And the thing is, when you see, and maybe you see this with your nephew, when you see a child growing up, you know how important it is to have people around that child that are collaborating with the things that you tell your kid. I can tell Idris day and night how important it is to be connected to yourself and your feelings and your ancestors. But if he doesn't have people around him to corroborate what I'm saying, he's going to not, eventually what I'm saying is going to be like, okay, my mom said that a lot and it's okay, but like nobody else does it, you know?
Super important. I wanted to just bring up that the people who were doing that, who were telling these stories, like our village, so to speak, were the elders.
Right.
The elders and their divine wisdom. It's a fact of life. They're passing on.
Right.
They're not here longer. So we have to step in as being those people. We have to have these conversations, and when the time is right, introduce these heavier topics to them, because it's part of who we are. It's why we are living here in this nation. It's why there's so many of us outside of our homeland. And yeah, I 100% whatever you just said, I totally agree with.
Right.
Yeah.
So like get with your grandparents, get with your parents, record them. My previous guest, she did that. She talked to her mom. She put it on YouTube. She has thousands of views. People are learning from her mother's story and their family's story. And you know, why not preserve that? Preservation was a thing that was very difficult. You can see technology advances and we're advancing with it. So, you know, why not
stick with that word, preservation?
Oh, okay. Okay, let's hear it.
I don't know. When I think of preservation, I feel like, okay, for example, preservation. You want to take something and you want to keep it like that forever.
Museum.
Exactly.
Right.
And we as a nation deserve to be much more dynamic than that. Preservation, great. We have to, but it shouldn't be the goal.
Right.
No, we should look beyond that. We should create all of this art. We should create everything and preserve our Khabza, learn it, absorb it, and live it. Yes, but we should get beyond that, especially when it comes to our language. You know, where we want to learn our language to preserve it. Yes, we should do that, but we should make a more concerted effort to learn our language, not just to read what we have, but to write in it, to express ourselves in it. It isn't just having a simple conversation, but like to, for example, if that was going to be, for a while, that was the only way you could identify another Ajika person, by the language that they spoke. And so it's super important. That's why I have a bone to pick with preservation, because it feels stagnant to me, and I want our nation to be more dynamic than that.
When I first started my page, I uploaded a video by Bob Iger, who he was the CEO of Disney, then he wasn't. I don't know if he is now. You know, these CEOs. But he was talking about how when he took Disney, he took over Disney basically. He had two schools of thought within the company that he had to manage. And one of them was preservation, where basically we're going to keep the company exactly how it is. You know, Disney has a legacy, it has a history, it has, you know, very proud. It's its own community, right? And then you had people who said, let's nod to the traditional Disney and let's bring Disney forward. Let's move it, let's let it breathe and flow with the times. And it's an interesting video, you know, it's just a few minutes, and it's from the masterclass series. And my husband, he was like, oh my God, this reminds me so much of like Circassian stuff and culture in general. And I'm like, yeah, throw it my way. So I threw it on my page. If you do some scrolling, you'll find it. I think it's called like reverence versus respect or something like that. But he talks about it, and it's like in a completely different topic, but it's like, again, something that you can hear somewhere, but you can apply it to yourself. Just to kind of chew it around, move it around in your head a little bit. But I agree with you. I agree with you. It's just going to elders and learning from them, and just recording their experiences, you know, their oral history, their stories. Since we can't really go back like
And
some
then,
families can.
and then filling the role that they occupied as well.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's that, because that's the next step after you've
Right.
learned. We have to be the leaders, because every day there's somebody else that's coming up and wants to learn, and we owe it to them to teach it, pass on the information, the knowledge that we have acquired.
Right. Right. Beautiful. Yeah. I for a while I came across this term future ancestor, you know, and I try to apply that to myself, you know, like one day I'm going to be somebody's ancestor. So like what spot am I going to take in my family? What is my legacy? You know, I'm very serious with myself on that topic. Did he wake up?
No. My dad's heading out. That's like, okay.
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh my God, what's this up? Okay. And then we have this, I think the last note here, which is May 21st as a day of action. I feel like we did touch on that. Yeah. But I mean, I don't want to keep you all day, even though I could talk to you forever. But if there's anything else that you kind of want to, you know, put a bow on it, share your thoughts, share your insights, something maybe that you wanted to, you know, just last word.
Back to that, what you just said, we should really think about May 21 as a day of action, as a day of, you know how every year the president gives a state of address to America. The president stands up and gives a state of address and what his plans are for the future.
Right.
I think we should do something similar with May 21, where we're thinking about our past, obviously, for sure, but we should also use this as a benchmark of how we're going to think about the future. What do we want our future to look like? How do we envision Circassia in the future? How do we envision our nation? Are we still going to be thinking about our own small communities, like in our local communities, or are we going to be thinking as global ideas? These kinds of questions, I think, and we have to talk about them. We have to really discuss this, and maybe instead of thinking about May 21 as only one day, we should think about it throughout the year, because one day is not enough to uncover all of these topics. It's not enough, like we just said, that we could keep talking about it, because there's so much to unpack. But I think it's super important that we think about it in these terms.
Okay. So you heard what Dana said earlier. If this is something that interests you, reach out to her. She's tagged on the page. She'll be tagged in these videos, these lives.
Ideas, people.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, like just one idea that has been percolating my mind, for example, is let's erect a monument in America
Mm.
dedicated to victims of the Circassian genocide. Like we
Oh,
don't even have that. Like we have the financial means to do it. We live in a free country where we could put something together like this. Like how great would it be to have a focal point, something tangible, as you said,
right.
direct our focus on, and in the process learn about what happened to our people. And there's all other sorts of ideas that we could come up together, and I'm looking forward to hearing anybody else's ideas, what they think should happen, or what actions we could take all together. I think we're only going to get better if we're together. We're only
Right.
going to get stronger if we work and put in the sweat and put in the dedication and the time and the effort. And that's the only way we're going to heal as a nation. It's the only way we're going to progress as a nation. It's the only way we're going to free Circassian.
Right.
That,
And just because I feel like I heard this around the Vancouver Sochi time, and I feel like this is something someone might think, which is like, Dana, you're so ambitious. How could you think about like a free Circassia? Like, look at the world, look at our people. Like, they're so, and there's no cohesion, there's no this, there's the like the naysayers.
yeah,
And I just want to offer the idea that you hop on your phone and you see what people are doing randomly all over the planet.
yeah,
All over the planet. Half the time you don't even know where that video came from,
yeah,
you know? And that is a mark of the time that we're living in. So if you're watching this and you're from a village in Turkey, or you're from Germany, or you're from the Caucasus, or you're from a random state and you don't know any other Circassian people in America or Canada or whatever, you just literally have to send a message to somebody who you feel like is aligned with something that interests you. And that's
and
it.
don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Like I had about this a couple nights ago. Don't be afraid to put something out there too. For many years, I was part of this movement, and then a few short years afterward, I was able to go to the
Right.
homeland. I was
Right.
able to go to Circassia. I was able to stand on Mount Elbrus, and that was just overwhelming as itself. I was overcome with emotion just standing there. I'm holding this flag actually,
Oh, same flag.
and it's just like incredible to be there. And I had gone there as part of a family reunion. My cousin was married, so it was. I didn't get to tour
Mm.
Asia as I had wanted to. It was a family trip, which was very much needed as well. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, especially if you live in the West, especially if you live in a country where free speech is celebrated, where freedom of assembly is celebrated, freedom to gain knowledge, to acquire this knowledge, to make connections on social media. Like, just don't be brave. Our these warriors that had fought in the war for 101 years, who had sacrificed so much, were so brave. And we owe it to them to learn about what they had gone through and to fulfill their wish of a free nation, of a free Circassia, to uphold what we have, try to gain back what we have lost.
Push forth, right?
Push forth. Yeah.
Use your voice, use your peace. On this page I talk a lot about living in survival mode versus having a stable, safe existence, a safe life. Our generation, for a lot of families, this is the generation where we are going to be held accountable for healing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be in survival mode anymore. You're not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do the work to heal and to spread that peace
Yeah.
out, just like
Taking action is a form of healing.
exactly.
It is so cathartic. Like during those May 20 protests through the years, it was a catharsis to be saying, to demand recognition of what had happened to us, to explain that these human rights violations are still occurring. Like, it was a catharsis to say that it was a form of healing for me, because for so long we have been burying our hands and our faces in our hands in mourning, and now just working, trying to unpack all of that, trying to um, spread awareness. It's, I don't know, there's no other word for it, but something that's provides incredible healing.
That's so beautiful. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Later today, I'm going to be posting a video that I made based off of a post that I made previously. And it's a meditation, like they do this in different industries where, you know, you can do this to meet your inner child. You can do this to meet your different feelings. People who, it's just a pathway to getting your brain to kind of, it's an exercise to do something that, you know, to get a conclusion or a resolution that maybe you can't get in real life. And this video is going to be about, here's the teaser. It's very short. Okay, it's not like this epic, I wish, but it's not this big thing. It's very short, but it's going to be about meeting your ancestors. And you're the one meeting them, you're picking them up from the Black Sea port, and you're taking them home safe and sound. And they get to meet you, and you know, it's just a little bit of that. And
Like I remember there was a post on your page.
right.
I think it was on your page, most likely, or you posted in your stories or something. When you look in the mirror, right, and you see your face, you should realize that somebody in your ancestry, like your grandmother, your great grandmother, probably has the same like facial expression, facial
Right.
features you do.
Right.
Like meeting your ancestors, it's a beautiful concept. I love this. I can't wait to do the meditation. But sometimes you just have to look in the mirror and know that somebody that looked like you was in your past and have the same fears, that had gone through so much. And I think it's just, it brings it closer. You know, it doesn't feel as distant anymore, and it's something that it's just, it's right there.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. That, you know, they say, and I've gotten this from other, of course, communities, you know, walk like you have 3,000 ancestors behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Your DNA, your skin, your hair, your emotional patterns, your strengths, your weaknesses. These are all gifts from your family. And a lot of us don't know our family past a few generations for so many reasons. But when you read about what our people endured, you can get closer to them in their pain. But when you get yourself out, up, doing things that you love, expressing yourself, getting to know yourself, you can enjoy your ancestors' company that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, just as somebody like myself who, you know, I just had my 36th birthday. I have my 2 kids, you know, I have my responsibilities. I have, you know, different things I'm doing. It's just one way that I try to, you know, connect, like looking at my son and seeing like even my own face in him. I'm like, man, who else has got this face? What were their names? Like, I just, you know, I think about them all the time. And I pray for them, and I, you know, I think about them. So, and that's something actually that I talk about with my son. He's like, when we die, you know, I'm going to meet all my ancestors. I'm going to see them. I'm like, yeah. You know, like he's so excited to meet his great grandpa, you know, and I'm just like,
How sweet is that?
it's all just from love, you know. It's just, it's an exercise in love. Like, it's just about building that love. So
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, Dana. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know that, you know, anybody who came on was happy to see you just as much as I was.
So good to hear you. Like, I know we chat a lot, but it was just like having this,
you know,
this conversation is great.
I know. I hope if I get to visit New Jersey soon, I want to bring my son. I want him to meet you. I want him to meet all the players of my past. So we'll have like a nice time just getting to reconnect even at that time, hopefully.
Have you, Emma?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dana. Please, when Wes wakes up, thank him on my behalf as well. And I hope you have another phone call. You're so popular.
It's okay.
It's okay. We're gonna hang up now. But thank you again. I'll keep it short. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Sorry about my phone bricking. Hopefully both of the segments will be up. Spread it. Let people hear. Let people join the page. Please follow, like, share, all that good stuff. Yeah, thank you for just supporting the page.
Thank you. تحمّي
Oh, that's what I need. I need to be up on my introductions and my exits in Circassian. Okay. Thank you so much, Dana. Yalla, take care.